B.
Tier.
Brandon. Hello, hello, and welcome to B Tier Brandon. Uh, Hi guys, my name is Brandon. I'm a friend of Dylan's and a longtime listener, first time contributor. You might know my work on this channel from the tier list of random things. I submitted Lightning McQueen Crocs, and in a similar vein, today we're going to be going through Lego representations of characters from Cars 2, the best Cars movie. Um, this is a big departure from what you're normally listening to here on Beer Tier Besties, but hopefully, this is a good time and you like my tier list. Of course, this is objective and this is factual, and there's no opinion in this whatsoever, just a pure analysis of what indeed are the best minifigures or Lego representations of Cars characters from the Cars sets that were released in um, 2011. So I know you might miss Dylan, you might miss Nicholas, but they'll be back shortly, I'm sure. I'm just taking over. I'm a hacker. Anyway, we're gonna start with Acer Visor version, and this guy comes from um, a Lego car set and set 94841, I should say. And I'm gonna put him in a solid B tier. It's not a very complex build, not a big build, but you can see a little bit of a thrower on him, and a visor, and I think that's pretty cool, pretty unique for a Lego Cars figure. So that's why he's in B tier. He's on A because he's not a big name. It's a pretty small build as well, but I like the facial expression. I like the eyes, so I think it's a solid B tier. We're next going to go to Combat Ship with stickers. And this set is from 84261. Again, 2011, as all these sets are. And this is definitely an S tier Lego. Just from the size, the scale, but also the uniqueness. Not that many Lego Cars characters are boats, right? The movie is called Cars 2, in fact, indicating that there might be too many cars. But the fact that this guy's a boat, well, I might have just convinced myself about A tier, because after all, he's not a car, or they're not a car. They're a boat. Yes, it's a really cool boat with like weaponry, missiles. I see a radar, but it's not perfect because it's not a car. So, and a solid A tier for uniqueness, but if this boat had wheels, maybe it'd be an S tier. Okay, we're gonna go to Lego Crane with stickers from the set 94861, and man, I'm torn. I'm torn. I think I'm gonna put this in B tier. So here's why I like it. Right, it's average. It's not bad at all because it's unique. Right, it's not a car. It's a crane, and I love the little hat that guy has. If I can zoom in. Yeah, there you go. Look, you see, he has a hat, and I think that is really fascinating, right? Because beyond being vehicles, these characters are also characters. They're people in a way, um, and I think the hat really just adds to the personification of this crane, and I appreciate that. Um, it's a pretty small build, but it's pretty unique. So definitely B tier. Next, we're gonna go to Fillmore. Fillmore. Now, Fillmore, he appeared in a few sets, from Cars 1. And in Cars 2, he made a return just in one set, in set 84871. And I love the decals. I love the hippie vibes. So I'm going to put him in A tier. He's a classic character. I think the build could have been bigger, a bit more detailed, but they really have the shape of the hippie van or the hippie minibus. Well, and I like his facial expressions, right? He's really chilled out. He has this can of oil, which is a classic Fillmore uh, component, and just his name, Fillmore. Like you're filling up the gas of a car or of a vehicle, and I appreciate those puns. So Fillmore gets an A tier. Lego Fillmore gets an A tier. I think that's uncontroversial right there. Next, we're going with one of the best depictions of Finn McMissile there is, and that is Finn McMissile wings and propeller. So this is from the opening scene of Cars 2. where Finn is on a mission to an oil rig to investigate crimes happening. He eventually saves a life, I think, of another car who's being destroyed by the evil Cars mob. If you're unfamiliar with the plot of Cars 2, I can't do it justice in this short video, but I definitely recommend you check it out. Finn McMissile is a secret agent, a British agent, who is investigating sabotage and corporate malfeasance uh, in the Cars underworld and in the Cars energy sector. So, he's required to go underwater and to evade things. So you can't see in this image because it kind of got cropped, but he has wings, fins, and he's a propeller in the back. So this is a really fun set to play with, right? Lots of movable pieces, and it can take them off too, just to have a normal car. But I like the amphibious nature of Finn McMissile with wings. So that's why he's our first S tier of of the evening, so to speak. I mean, furthermore, just like the name Finn as well is not really associated with cars, but because of his nautical introduction of Finn, Finn cutting through the water as if associated with fish, I think that makes his name fit even better. And of course, McMissile, action. He's an action hero. He's a spy, so his name is perfect. Um, Next, we're going with Flo. Now, Flo's a great character. They go back to the original Cars movie, so they're pretty cool. But I think I'm gonna put Flo, this iteration of Flo at least, an F tier, guys. F tier, maybe the only F tier of the evening, and this is why. Just the proportions are all wrong. This Flo is way too small compared to the rest of the cars, at least by the looks of it, right? Flo's too tall and not long enough, especially for that sort of like 60s cruiser vibe that Flo is supposed to be. It just doesn't work. So because of the bad proportionings and the fact that the Lego designers try to make her too small in this instance, it's going to be an F tier. So sorry about that if you're a Flo stan. I know that's pretty controversial. You notice I'm not listing set numbers anymore because I decided that's not something I want to read off. Um, all right, next we're going to Francesco Bernoulli. So he's kind of an antagonist in the movie. He's an Italian racer who is a Ferrari. So, there's some name recognition with the Ferrari, but he's not a very nice person. And, um, you know, I think that really rubs me the wrong way. And I know rubs a lot of the characters the wrong way. But the design itself is really smart and really well done. I especially love how they use a dome piece for his eyes. And they're squinted too, which is very cool. The design is compact and small to scale with the rest of the cars, but it's how should I best phrase it? It's really captures the spirit and aesthetic of F1, which is important because he is an F1. He is a European racer as compared to Lightning McQueen, who's an American car. More in the style of a NASCAR than a Formula One. And I'm a big fan of Formula One, or I'm not really a big fan, but I'm becoming a bigger fan as F1 targets the American market. I know it's controversial. I don't like what they're doing with Las Vegas, but maybe I should keep politics out of B tier besties or this iteration of B tier Brandon. Um, so he's a pretty cool character, a really good design, and I'm sure really fun to play with. So that's Francisco Bernoulli. Another reason why he's not S tier is because of his name. It's just not it's not car enough. It's not really a pun. And that's no hate towards the Lego, but it is hate towards the character. And the character of the character, right? It's kind of an asshole. We shouldn't reward that with S tier. Okay. This next character is Grem Orange. So Grem is a henchman associated with the villain of the movie, and he's gonna kind of a mob gangster fellow. So I'm gonna put him in B tier. Uh, I like the orange. Orange isn't my favorite color. Again, controversial. And I'm not a big fan of how the orange of his paint color hides the orange of his tail lights. I think or his front lights, I should say. It kind of doesn't make me feel the best about that. But I like his angry face. I think it's really fun. And I like the fact that he does have a flamethrower and a missile as well. I love armed cars just because really shows the absurdity of this IP and of what I'm doing in general right now. Right? These are toy cars with weapons, and not like weapons that are built in, but weapons that they are supposedly holding. And I just think that's so charming, really. It's charming and sweet. Um, we're next going to show you another Grem. This is Grem Red. Just give me 1 second to pull him up. There's an ad on my list of things, so I'm having a hard time finding the reference right now. But this is Grem. I'm going to put Grem with. I should be ranking these in column as well. I'll go through and do that real quick after I do Grem Red. So Grem's another henchman, and really similar to the Acer, this green car here, right here. Um, he's also welding. He's the car at work with a torch, a blowtorch with fire, and a visor. And yeah, like I was saying with Grem Orange, they're cars at work, and I think that's so fun and so charming. So I think I'm going to keep that ranking in B tier as is, but I'm going to move Francesco to the top of A tier right here because his build is really cool. And if he was a better character, he might be S tier. So I think that's how we're doing it right now. Okay. After Grem A, or Grem Red, I should say, um, we have Guido. Guido. Now, Guido's a fun guy. He's a fun character. I really love how he's so fast in changing tires, especially like McQueen's tires. Uh, if you want, after this, after watching a few more Beat Your Besties videos, of course, you should definitely YouTube clips of him changing Lightning McQueen's tires because he's really good at it. So I'm gonna put his build in. Hmm, I should put some more stuff in C tier, shouldn't I? But I'm gonna put him in A tier. He's a great character, really fun to watch, and I'm really impressed with how the Lego is able to capture his form and his shape because he's so small and compact. Yet they still, have room for his face, for his little forklift arms, for his wheels, and to have a great breadth of colors on him. Like look at the details on the hubcap, on the area above the wheels as well is more of a turquoise, and then his body is more of a light blue, and then his hat is like a dark blue. Like I think that's a really great variety of colors, and I'm impressed that they were able to fit all that detail in such a small build. Um, so next we're going to go into Holley Shiftwell, Agent Shiftwell. So she's a colleague, kind of like the trainee almost of the more senior Finn McMissile, and she also gets an S tier. Just because in this build, she does have wings, and I think that's pretty impressive, right? Just like how Finn McMissile was a amphibious car, Agent Shiftwell is an airborne car. So kind of, on the verge of being a plane. However, she still has wheels and can take off the wings too if you just want to make her a normal car. She's a very competent agent, which again I appreciate, and her name is a pun, right? Shift well. You've got to shift well, especially in a manual car. So I think it's pretty good. So yeah, we're gonna go to Yvonne Mater. So Yvonne Mater, I think, is an A tier as well. I think I'm gonna put him right after A tier, or right after Francesco in A tier. So this is Tow Mater in disguise. Um, Wait, he's in disguise in order to infiltrate the mob that's trying to subvert clean energy in the Cars world. Um, and he's trying to figure out, right? He's working with Agent Shiftwell and Finn McMissile in order to see what's happening. So that requires him to get a new paint job, a blue paint job. And we all know Tow Mater, he's rusty and all dented. But with this disguise, he looks brand new. He looks like a brand new car in his original blue coloring as well, if you look at the lore. So I'm really glad that they have this in Lego representation, so you can have Tow Mater flashbacks to play with if you want to do that. I think it's a unique look. Blue is one of my favorite colors, so I think that really um, does some good as well. And yeah, we're about halfway through, and we're 15 minutes in. My goodness. All right, so next we're gonna go with Jeff Gorvette, not Corvette, Gorvette, and he's just another racer on the Grand Prix circuit or whatever it's called. So I need to take a closer look at him first because I didn't do much prep work. Sorry, y'all. Yeah, the Grand Prix. Yeah, so we're gonna put him, I think, towards the bottom of B tier, towards the middle of it. I really like the details, of the American flag. Actually, we're gonna put it at the bottom of A tier. It's just a clean design, right? Compact, sleek, looks like a race car, really good. I like the advertisements that he has on the spoiler, pretty cool, good. I love the name, Jeff Gorvette, like Corvette, right? It's again playing on the idea that they're cars, and I love that. And lastly, there's the American flag on the side, and I like this for two reasons. Number one, I'm a patriot in an ironic way, in some senses. We're not going to talk politics on this YouTube, as I've mentioned, so we're going to refrain away from it. But it's interesting to think about politics in terms of the Cars world, because the first Cars was isolated to like Arizona and what supposedly is the United States, but it's Cars. They don't really do much world building. You don't know what the politics are. But in Cars 2, it's a world tour. There's Italian Cars. There's it's set in London for bits of it. So outside of Radiator Springs, which itself is a pun. So it's basically saying, yeah, there is a real world here. Um, and the fact that there's an American flag is a reminder, like makes one think of the Cars Revolutionary War and the Cars Redcoats and Cars George Washington, right? The fact that there's an American flag implies all of this. And I'd love to see a depiction of it. Um, and I'd like to say that the Cars lore does go into it a little bit. There is a World War II flashback in the Cars spin-off Planes movie. So if you want to learn more Cars history, I really suggest watching Planes and trying to understand, the different aspects of this. While we're on this tangent, if you want to bracket this area as tangent or just cut it out, that's okay. But there's also a Cars Pope as well, or implied one, right? Because they go to Rome and Italy for a bit. So that implies like, a Jesus Chrysler and car Romans as well. Um, and I think that's really lovely. And if you want to pull up a picture right now, they don't have a Lego depiction of this, so I think I'm okay to mention it. But they have a Cars Pope mobile. So the Cars Pope is actually the Pope mobile, and I love that's full circle moment. Um, yeah. Next, we're just gonna go into Lightning McQueen. He's a classic. He's a main character. But I'm actually going to put this depiction in C tier here. I feel like none of the Lightning McQueens that we got in any of the Cars 2 sets were really special at all, right? You can get the same car, you can get better Cars Lightning McQueen depictions from sets from Cars 1 or Cars 3, where, there's more variety in how he's portrayed. But all the Cars 2 sets just have the normal red Lightning McQueen. Um, and I think that's pretty boring, right? That's not his best look. I much prefer like kind of his character development moment from the middle of Cars 1, where he kind of looks all fancy and spiffy, um, or in like some of the dream sequences from Cars 1, where he looks like the Dynaco colors, because I think that's just a much more interesting look than this kind of red Rusty's branding. Um, so that's Lightning McQueen for you. So next we're going to look at Luigi. And I'm also going to put Luigi in C tier. This is kind of the moment where we're kind of getting towards the bottom of the barrel in some of these Cars depictions. So Luigi, of course, is Guido's best friend and runs a tire shop with Guido in Radiator Springs and becomes a member of Lightning McQueen's pit crew once Lightning McQueen, returns back to the world stage as a racer. And I love how he has a headset, has a hat on, like kind of, like more of an Italian or New York, like working class hat. I forget what they're called. And I think those are really cool details. So I'm actually going to move it up in C tier. But but Luigi still isn't the best depiction of a Fiat. Lego's made a bunch of Lego Fiats, actually, at least two, like larger sets. And I think did a much better job with getting the form of an Italian Fiat better in those sets than this one. Of course, this is a much smaller set than the Italian Fiat I'm thinking of in Lego, but still, I know what they can do, and with a little bit more development they could have done. So I'm gonna have to sit with a disappointment, and you are too, with Luigi in headset and C tier. Next, we're going to Max Shnell. So this is a German car, and I'm also gonna put him bottom of B tier. Um, he's a bit bigger than Jeff Gorvette, I think, and kind of the same build, just kind of classic race car, but I don't like the six studs on the hood. I much prefer the sleekness of the two stud hood design that Gorvette has. I'm also not as patriotic about Germany, right? Max Schnell is a German car. You can see by the German flag on his side, and I'm just not loving that as much. He's really advertising the Grand Prix as well. He has it both on his spoiler and on the side. I'm not a shill for that sort of, you know, corporate advertising, so we're going to put it a rank lower. And lastly, I don't like his name. Jeff of course is iconic. Jeff Gorvette, like that pun on Corvette, I think is really carrying the A tier ranking for Jeff, but Max just doesn't have that. So um, sadly, B tier. Now this guy is equally as disappointing, and it's Miles Axlerod. He's the main villain of spoilers. He's the main villain um, of Cars 2. He is a car who pretended to be on this brand new eco fuel that could replace, and is head of this company that would replace normal oil with a more environmentally friendly, cleaner, burning, more efficient oil. And he's a big proponent of that. But then it's revealed that he's actually organized the whole Grand Prix and got all these race cars on the new eco fuel, whatever it's called, so he could blow them up and sabotage the perspective of the world on eco fuel by showing that by fabricating a scandal where eco fuel is bad for a car's health and actually leads to their death. So Miles Axelrod is a fan of dirty oil. And I'm not a big fan of that as a character moment, so he's obviously a bit lower from that moral standpoint. Um, the the build itself is really bad. Like he doesn't have any side paneling, which I think is super disappointing. And he just looks really boring, really bland, especially for the main villain. I think he should have had more detail. The eyes are like kind of weird looking as well. He doesn't really have a good expression. I do like his hat, like on his hood, right? Kind of gives him more dimension, more character, more personification, but it's still not enough for me. So Miles Axelrod, despite the great name, I'm both Miles, in terms of cars drive for miles, and Axelrod, because Axelrods are, in cars. Despite those redeeming features, he's still in D. And I'll go a bit further here and say that miles doesn't even make sense because he's British, I think, and they use kilometers in Europe, I believe. At least, maybe I think in the UK. I know they're kind of weird on metric versus imperial usage. You're like, you'll have a pint of beer, even though they might measure petrol in terms of liters. So they're on the fence there, but I think they use kilometers to measure distances. So miles doesn't make sense as a British car name. If he was like kilometer Axelrod, maybe he'd be C tier. Um, Next is Petrov Trunkov, and I'll put him in A tier here. So he is another villain who's in league with Miles Axelrod in this fuel conspiracy that they've organized. This car itself he's really small, but I think it kind of gets at like almost a Soviet or old Russian aesthetic, where it's a small, very practical car, and I think he's on the verge of being considered a lemon as well, which is why he's also so invested in becoming rich. Um, so I love that characterization. I love the facial expression on him. He also has a missile holder, so he's armed, and as I established earlier, I really love seeing armed cars. And um, I like the coloration. I like how compact he is. I think this is all around a great little guy. And the name, of course, Petrov, right? Getting a first name, but Trunkov, like these cars have trunks. It's awesome. So that's where we are here. Next, we have pit crew helper green with clip, and I think this is also a C tier. I think Guido was so compact and so smooth and so well done for a forklift, but this pit crew helper for Francesco is just not it. Like I like his headset, don't get me wrong, but I think there's just too his forklift bit is a bit too big. I don't think it makes sense proportionally. I guess he is supposed to be a bigger character compared to Guido, right? He has four wheels as opposed to two, but I just don't think the design is as elegant as it could be. And I'm just not attached to the character at all, right? He's just the side helper guy. And I'm sure he has inferior skills compared to Guido. So that's where we are there. Um, Next, we have Professor Zundapp, and he's also in league with Petrov and Miles. He's kind of like the scientist who's developed this horrible exploding eco fuel. Um, ooh, this is tough. I think I'm gonna put him at the top of B tier. I love the monocle. Can I put him in the top? Yeah. I love the monocle. I love the facial expression. But I just don't think he looks very car-like in a way that where Trunkov obviously has, a hood. Um, Professor Zundapp just doesn't. He looks a lot less car-like and more like just like a mechanical blob, almost like a slug, especially given the coloration. And I wish the coloration was more diverse from Axlerod and Petrov, who are all like this off grayish green color. I think the villains could have been more colorful. It kind of shown that the diversity of villainy. Um, However, I think it's interesting that like this off green color is kind of the color associated, at least in my mind, most with money. And I think it's really illustrative that capitalism is a corruptive force and um, often leads to moral bankruptcy and villainy. So I like that connection there. A bit, more subliminal, but I think for children, it's an important message to show that money can be bad and often is. Um, our next person is Raoul Caroule. Raoul Caroule. He's, I think, a British or Portuguese racer. Let me pull him up here. I'm going to put him at the bottom of C tier. I think the printing and the coloration is really interesting, right? That blue, orange, and white, I think, is unique. But again, compared to Jeff Gorvette, like this race and Lightning McQueen, even he's just not all that special. He's smaller, more compact, more squished, a bit more distorted of a figure. Doesn't look super aerodynamic, and I just don't know enough about this guy to really care. And there might be a pun in the name, Raoul, but Caroule, but I don't get it. So that's where we are. Next, we have Red with stickers. Now, Red, this is a sick build. I'm putting it in S tier. Red's like a really shy fire truck, fire engine from Radiator Springs who became a friend of Lightning McQueen's. I love the color. I love fire truck builds in general. I love how substantive the build is as well. I think that's really important and accurate to a fire truck. And he even has a missile on top, a little water missile, as you can see. And, so you can actually put out fires with him. Um, so I'm a big fan of that. And there's not really much more to say. It's just that he's a great character and it's a great build. Next we have Sally Carrera. Now Sally is a Porsche and is Lightning McQueen's girlfriend, so I'll put them next to each other. But I just don't think she's that special in this depiction. She's kind of smaller than other cars, smaller than she has been in other sets. I think they got the shape of a Porsche really good, but I don't think and they even have like a little logo printed on her as well, the little seal, the Porsche shield. But I just don't like how far her wheels stick out from the body. I don't like the sides, and I just don't think it's a very special car. So that's where we are. Now we also have Sarge from Cars 2. I'm also gonna put him in C or from Cars 1 and Cars 2. He's a mentor figure kind of from Cars 1 who returns in Cars 2 to be there and support Lightning McQueen. And I just don't like this version of Sarge. Like, look at the scale here. Like his top is like taller than the body, and that doesn't make sense, especially for a military Jeep. I think his eyes are way too big for what it is. Like, I appreciate that they try to get the shape, but just his body is way too short, way too stunted compared to what he actually should be. I appreciate the star on his hood, and I like kind of the boxiness there. I think that's also good, but beyond that, it's just not for me. So, and similar to what I was saying about Jeff Gorvette, who I've been talking about a lot, and so I think I'm gonna move to S tier just because he's so iconic for me at this moment. Um, the fact that he's a military Jeep makes one think about the meaning of cars, or not the meaning of cars, the history of the cars world, right? Like, he's a military Jeep. Did he serve anywhere? Was he in Iraq? Was there car rock? Like, yeah, we shouldn't be joking about wars, of course, but I think just the implications of it makes one wonder. We're loading the next page just so I know the characters' names and stuff. So this is Siddeley is the next one. He's a plane. He's a plane who also works with Agent Shiftwell and um, Finn McMissile to transport Tomater and the rest of the agent crew around the world to go on these missions and figure everything out. Um, I like that he's a plane. I think, obviously, I don't think you can fit the cars in the plane, but I appreciate that they did make a plane character in the Lego set. I think that's really cool. I like his visor, his kind of eyes, right? He does look very aerodynamic and plane-like, which, you can't ask for more. Um, I should like his proportions better than the boat, so I'm going to put him toward the top of A tier, I think. Not a bad character at all. One of the only reasons why he's not in S tier is because he's not a car. Hopefully, that bias is understandable. You can call me out in the comments if not, but just know that probably um, Siddeley would be in S tier over the boat. And again, I don't understand what the name Siddeley is. I really like it when the names are puns, and this just isn't sitting with me. Next, we have the Queen. So I think this is supposed to be Queen Elizabeth, and she automatically goes in S tier. And rest in peace, Queen Elizabeth. You know, 1 year. It's been about 1 year since her death, and it's still with me a little bit. But I just love the fact that she's in this movie and represented in Lego. I mean, number one, the crown is so iconic. Um, and I think the coloring and just the style is so elegant and reminiscent of the real British royal family. So I'm glad that she's made it in Lego form, that she's present, and that she looks really great. She looks like a Rolls Royce, like a car from the 1940s. And the Queen was born, like what, in the 1920s, I think. So it's kind of perfect that she still retains that shape and build from the period that she was born in real life and manufactured in the Cars universe. I'm gonna just look up McQueen cars real quick. Yeah, yeah. So she's modeled off after a Rolls Royce Phantom, and um, wow, on the Cars wiki, it actually has her death, Queen Elizabeth's real death, as the date of death in the Cars universe as well, which is really interesting. Yeah. So I like the shades of royal blues. I like the grill. I think it's just a really well done set and build. And she shows up at the end when Miles Axlerod is revealed to have been a villain, and her life is threatened, but she's able to survive because she's such a G. So obviously there we are. Um, I realized before we end with Tomater, because he's really the main character of this movie, it's his development, we are missing one car that I haven't been able to list. So we're going to find that real quick and then we'll go into Tomater. Sorry for this down period. Check your phone, check your Instagram, right? Like, often Gen Z uses two screens anyway, so I encourage you just to do that while I look for this guy's name because I want to do him respect. Do 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 do. Okay, here we are. Shu Todoroki. He doesn't have I don't think, a very card pun name, but he's definitely like top of my S tier. Just the build is so unique, the look on him. I love the coloring. It's very Japanese, and it makes sense. And in the movie, he's representing his home country because there is a Grand Prix race in Tokyo. So he looks really cool. He looks super unique compared to every other car. I love the look. I love the spoilers. I think the build looks really complex and is not at all like just a few pieces like some of the other cars here on this list. So definitely S tier, definitely towards the top, and just looks really fun to play with. He looks like a really cool guy. Um, and yeah. And lastly, we have Tow Mater with parachute. And just look at this guy. Also S tier. Also S tier. The parachute, the fire coming out of his engines in the back, the guns blazing. Like, I think he's just a really cool depiction, a really great car. This is him. This represents Tow Mater coming into himself, right? Having that self confidence in his competence, in his ability, in his worthiness to be friends with Lightning and McQueen, right? Because throughout the whole movie, Tow Mater is dealing with imposter syndrome. He's like, I'm not civilized enough to be on this grand tour. I don't understand Lightning McQueen well enough to be a good friend because he's so used to like all this prestige and racing. And what am I? I'm just some guy from Radiator Springs. I'm just a broken, dented up tow truck. And the agents do try to change him, right? When he has to be in disguise as Ivan Mator, they want to fix his dents. They want to repaint him. But he's like, no, I don't want to be repainted because all my rust is a memory, and I don't want my dents fixed because every dent is a memory. Um, so Tow Mater being fully himself is amazing. And then just with the added bit of the parachute and the weaponry, he's saving the day, right? He's doing something that even Lightning McQueen can't do. Sure, Lightning McQueen can be a great representation of racing and of, I guess the Piston Cup's skill and speed. But Lightning McQueen is a better, the Tow Mater, especially Parachute Tow Mater, is a better representation of the true spirit of cars, which is persistence, love, kindness. He's kind throughout the movie, and respect. And that's how you become a true hero, not just by winning races. So thank you for listening to B Tier Brandon. It's been lovely to have you. I hope you think it's been lovely to have me. But if not, this is probably my last appearance here. So have a good day. And maybe I'll be back with ranking Cars 1 characters, Cars 3 characters in Lego, or even Planes characters in Lego. I have a lot of content here. So thank you so much.